This is Terry Battisti with the Bass Fishing Archives, and sitting with one of the old timers in the sport, Paul Elias. And Paul's going to talk about how he got into competitive bass fishing, and I guess what it means to have been fishing professionally since the early 80s, late 70s. Paul?
Well, Terry, I was kind of a guy that, I loved fishing from a kid. I just couldn't, every chance I got, I cut school a lot to go bass fishing. And I, when Ray Scott started fishing tournaments, I was the goal of mine. I said, I'm going to do that. And one day I'm going to win the Bassmaster Classic.
Yeah.
And it came to be, but I had to work for it. But I knew from the first time I heard about professional fishing that I was going to do it.
Right. When did you hear about it? What was the year you heard?
I was in college, 1970, early, right around 70, 71,
Right.
somewhere in there. And I knew I had to do it. There was I had all the friends that I went fishing with. I came up kind of poor, so I had to rely on somebody for a boat and stuff,
Right.
and I'd go with these guys, and I'd always catch more and bigger fish, and I just had a knack for it.
Right.
So all that kind of led to it.
Yeah. So what was your first big event that you fished?
My first big event I fished was a tournament called a Project Sports tournament. It was
B.A.S.S.
and it was on Ross Barnett, probably in 1974, 3 or 4. And I got it handed to me by a local guy that had come out with a new lure called a skipper shad. And as a matter of fact, Pete Pons' dad and this guy were partners.
Mm-hmm.
And
Bob Pons.
Yeah, Bob Pons. And but it just built a desire more to want to get out there and do it.
Uh-huh.
He gave me one of those skipper shads after I fished with him that day. He didn't give me one out there on the water. And I carried it in my pocket for about 10 years.
Wow. Wow.
Just in remembrance.
So your first tournament circuit was, I guess, PSI. Did you fish?
Well, I just fished that one.
Oh, that one?
Yeah. My first tournament circuit was American Bass Fisherman, really, as a fished every one of them for a year,
Right. That was probably, 74?
That was,
ABF started in 74.
It started in 76, I think. 75. And
Yeah.
I did it.
George Oates.
Yes, I started it in 76. I fished the first B.A.S.S tournament of the year on the St. John's in 76, and I heard about American Bass Fisherman, and they were paying more money for the same entry fee, so I decided to swap over.
Yeah. You and Guy Aker, actually.
Yeah.
So you stayed out of bass. You fished ABF for 3 or 4 years, and then you started fishing B.A.S.S back in 80 full time.
I started 79. I won a tournament in Virginia my first year at B.A.S.S. And what really got me, Hank changed over in 78.
Yeah.
And I almost changed over. And they went to Ross Barnett for the Classic. That's back before he announced where it was,
Yeah.
They just went there. And it just really killed me that they went to Barnett. And and so I switched over at 79 and been doing it ever since.
Yeah. So what was the time, or was there a specific event in your life that said, hey, I need to be fishing professionally. I can compete with these guys.
Well, to win one the first year in 79, gave me a lot of confidence. And it was a come from behind victory, and it looked like it was just a fluke deal,
Right.
But I'd really established a real strong pattern on that lake, and just lost the fish the first day that looked like it put me out of it because
Right.
and made a strong comeback the second and third day and won it. But I think winning the Classic in '82 and then backing it up with a win in '83 really initialized the sponsor people saying, "Hey, this guy's legit," and I started getting a lot of sponsors and doing a lot of promotional stuff, and it got on. I was running a construction business, and it got to where I wasn't taking care of my construction business like I needed to, and I had to make a choice of what I was going to do. And I chose tournament fishing.
So a lot of people, they know that you were the guy that opened the door to the Alabama rig. But what only old people like me know is that you were the guy that also introduced kneeling and reeling. You won the '82 Classic doing it, which was on Logan Martin, wasn't it?
On Alabama River, Montgomery.
Alabama River, Montgomery. And what got you to doing that? I mean, I've seen some pictures in old books and stuff. These guys in the '60s, sticking the rod down. How did you learn about it or come to fishing?
Well, what happened was I found these fish before the cutoff on the Classic.
Yeah.
Practicing, and they were in that 10 to 12 foot range, and about the only thing that would really get down to them was a maxi R. And when we went back for the tournament in September, the water had cooled off a little, and they went a little deeper, and they got more down in some brush that was there, and I couldn't get them to bite a worm or anything. All they really bite was a paintball. Yeah. And I was barely getting that maxi R down to them, and when I pre-fished. So at the time I worked for Lew's, and I told Lew's I needed a limber rod, long rod that I could cast a long way.
Yeah.
And they sent me a popping rod, a 2-piece popping rod. And that's what I used in the tournament. But I wanted something I could stick down in the water and try to hit that 12, 13, 14 foot range.
Right.
And because I'd heard of people doing it up in the Carolinas and stuff like that. And that's basically, why I did it. And it just worked out that's what they wanted. I caught one fish on a bait called a wing ding. Looks like a little George with a hole through it.
Yep.
And the rest of them, all of them, are called on crankbait.
So, well, sir, I appreciate your time.
All right.
Go win another one.
All right. Thank you, Terry. I
Anytime,
appreciate it.
sir.
Yes, sir.